So NetEase just came out in an interview and said that they were given the green light by Marvel to create their own original characters for Marvel Rivals. And a lot of people are pretty upset by this. So let's go ahead and talk about it. YouTube, what's going on, man? It's Father Dark here on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. I believe today is Tuesday. Just went outside and literally touched grass. Had to go ahead and mow the grass before it starts to rain from this hurricane that we have that's coming our way. I hope everybody's having a great week so far. If you're not, I'm sorry to hear that. But let's go ahead and talk about this situation. So noticing last night on Twitter, Reddit, a few different places in the Marvel Rival community, there's a lot of people that just keep going back and forth about this, talking about how silly of an idea it is for NetEase to create their own original characters for Marvel Rivals. And to be honest with you, I think that there's a big hoopla about absolutely nothing, right? And before we even get into that, I want to go ahead and read where this came from originally. So from the source that I have that this originated from there was a Twitter post from like a news article from MP First. They're at MP First on Twitter if anybody wants to be able to read that for yourself. Basically, they had the title with 2 heroes released per season for Marvel Rivals, which a season, if anyone doesn't know, nowadays is 2 months. They've shortened the seasons, so it'll be 1 character per month. With 2 heroes released per season for Marvel Rivals, is NetEase not concerned the roster might become too big? We asked NetEase this for ourselves. So now I click on the article, and I'm just going to breeze through this article really quick. It's a very short one. So it says Marvel Rivals spans 85 years of Marvels with abundance of characters and continues to grow every month as NetEase fulfills its promise of releasing 2 heroes every season. But could there be a point where there are too many characters? Developer NetEase doesn't seem to think so at this point, according to a statement given to us by the game's creative director at the Marvel Rivals Ignite mid-season tournament held in, and I could be pronouncing this wrong, Guangzhou, China, Guangzhou. I don't know how to pronounce that, but nonetheless, though, we go further in. It says, could the Marvel Rivals roster become too big or too overwhelming with ongoing monthly releases? And they said in an interview with Marvel Rivals creative director, we asked that very question since it's also a concern of ours, seeing as the hero selection wheel is slowly getting packed with characters. And we're just in the game's 3rd season. MP First is asking, I know that currently it's averaging like 1 hero a month being added to the roster. Are you worried that the roster may become too big at some point to where newcomers may become overwhelmed? Or is there a plan to ever maybe retire heroes to where it's not too large of a roster? Do you have any plans just kind of based on that? Guang then answered, maybe, but actually we would focus more on the present situation and actually would see players having many anticipations on the upcoming new heroes to see that we could enlarge our roster. And for the current in-game environment, we also see that players' anticipation are, I believe, more than the negative aspect that we could have foreseen. So in that case, we would continue to release heroes at a monthly basis for the upcoming foreseen seasons. The mindset directly from the person who works directly on the game at such a high level. Rather than focusing on the downside of adding more characters, it appears that the team at NetEase is looking at which characters people are most highly anticipating and working to bring them into the mix instead, which is rather exciting as a fan. This interview also confirmed that monthly releases are still the plan for the upcoming future, which makes sense with the large roster of characters to pull from, as well as the number of leaks of potential upcoming roster additions that were also addressed by NetEase, who told us they were developing countermeasures against it. In the same interview, Guang also confirmed to us that they were given the green light by Marvel to create their own characters for Marvel Rivals. Do you think that the roster for Marvel Rivals will eventually have to be whittled down to perhaps groups, or are you fine with the massive roster that is ever growing? Let us know in the comments. Okay, so that's the complete article from them. So the thing is that a lot of people took that kind of thing and they ran with it. That's just kind of like where we live at in today's society. Things like that get clicks and views. People see something kind of like outrageous like that, and they immediately go, now I got to talk about this. I'm going to make Twitter posts saying 100 reasons why this is dumb, or why would they ever think to do that, et cetera, et cetera. And what's funny is in the same exact interview, he specifically said, it seemed like that was just kind of like a little caveat that he added in, just something extra to kind of say, hey, just random little piece of information, but we were given the green light if we ever felt like it to make original characters. But then in the main part of the interview, they specifically said that their main focus was bringing characters that they know people are anticipating. See, the thing is that I know it might kind of seem like when you just think about it in regards to something like Overwatch or what was it, Team Fortress. I never played any of those games, but I'm assuming that they all use obviously like, characters that are ones that they created for their world. It's not like they're taking an IP that already existed, like something like Marvel, where a lot of people that have come to this game, myself included, came specifically because they love Marvel characters. The same thing that DC, which I'm really surprised DC hasn't done, which is just make a DC Rivals, which I believe that I've had people who probably are currently working on the game who've kind of hinted in the comments section in previous videos and said, hey, I can't really say anything. I'm under, NDA or whatever, but we got stuff cooking or whatever, right? It's just unfortunate that DC just tends to handle most of their stuff outside of their animated movies very, very poorly in comparison to the way that Marvel kind of gets out in the forefront of a lot of stuff like that. The point that I'm making is that Marvel has been around longer than anybody who's listening to this video right now has more than likely existed, okay? And they have years upon years and decades upon decades of characters that they can use. I've talked about it before in previous videos. There are thousands upon thousands of just X-Men that they could do. The comics just became overwhelming to read. You're talking about thousands and thousands of different X-Men that had like their own series and group projects and stuff like that were being done, to the point to where at one point, I can't remember when it was, maybe it was like the 80s or the 90s, they actually had to like kill off the majority of the mutants just so they could kind of like start from the beginning and kind of have like the smaller group of like the main mutants and build their way back up. But it just naturally is the way that it's going to happen in comics. People just keep getting introduced, new characters, returning characters, whatever the case is. And we're just talking about the X-Men. We're not even talking about the whole rest of the world. X-Men is one isolated thing, right? We're not talking about all the characters that can span from the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, all the different types of Avengers they have, like West Coast, East Coast, all different stuff like that, right? So what the point I'm making is that NetEase could make this game for another 2 decades and would never reach a point, even with them releasing a character every month, to where it would ever be a situation where they would have to make their own characters. If they ever chose to do that, it would be because it would be a situation where maybe Marvel wants to introduce a new character or feels like they could, because I think that's the benefit of having a game like this that's really popular and brings in a large new audience. There's so many people like in my server, comment section, people just randomly online who are like, I've never really cared much about Marvel characters. I've never really been into comic books, but now that I'm playing this game, it's making me want to know the lore behind characters. And you see people that go out and they, for example, when Free Comic Book Day is something they do every year. They have Free Comic Book Day. When I went into the store this year, they had a whole section that was just like all the characters that people like to play in Marvel Rivals. They had it broken down like that, right? It wasn't just this, what are the most popular comics? It was like, hey, you like Moon Knight? Here's a bunch of Moon Knight figurines and stuff like that. Here's a bunch of comic books that are like the top Moon Knight comic books, etc. And they kind of did that with a lot of different characters that were either lesser known or more popular in the comic book world, but kind of like an easy way to introduce these people to their comic book counterparts from the game. And the thing is it goes the same way like with movies and stuff like that. When movies and stuff come out, they're able to promote stuff like through this game, like with the Fantastic Four. I really do believe that the Fantastic Four, the reason that they pushed all of them out the way they did was because it was a way to get people excited for the Fantastic Four movie that may not have been excited prior. And we're going to more than likely, if they're smart, see more of this in the future. As movies are coming out and different characters and stuff, we'll probably see those characters get released here and there. And then that way they can sell the skins from the movie and different comic book ones and just all this different stuff. But overall, though, I think that being worried that they're going to start just making their own individual characters is just absolutely silly. Like, why would you do that when you could easily excite people by just popping out characters that already have massive fan bases? And the thing is too, there's other parts. So like I remember back in December, in their, I don't know if it was in their Discord or in another Discord, wherever it was, but at some point they did a poll and they had a pretty decent amount of characters, right? It's probably like 10 or so characters that they had. And it was like the poll and they were saying like, hey, do you want like Moon Knight, Deadpool, Thanos? Like, which ones do you want? To think that these people aren't paying attention to this stuff is kind of wild. You have developers like Call of Duty where they've fallen off because they've kind of taken this, we don't care what people think kind of mindset, and we're just going to do whatever we feel like doing. And then people have shown that they didn't like that by the game falling off. And now they're trying to bring people back desperately by saying, hey, all that stuff you were telling us, now we'll do it. It's kind of like, I've talked about it before, like you're in a relationship with someone and you're like, hey, these are the things that I would like. If you did these things, it make me happy. And the person's like, yeah, whatever, I got you already. So why do I really care? You're not going anywhere. And then you do go somewhere and you break up with them. And then now magically they want to do all this stuff that you told them you wanted to do, but you kind of know that it's not authentic, right? Like they're not doing these things because you genuinely wanted them to do them. They're only doing it because now the threat of losing you has been made real to them. You get what I'm saying? And it's a big difference with that. It's the same thing with this channel. A lot of times the topics that I talk about, a lot of people get confused and say, well, why are you talking about this? Why? Because other people are talking about it. And when something is interesting or people find it controversial, I'm going to cover that thing. No differently than I looked at that immediately and was like, in regards to this news article, I'm like, there's no way that they're going to start creating their own original characters over choosing characters that are already extremely popular. I could go on all day about characters that I want to see in this game, and it would take them years and years to bring all these characters in. And I know a lot of you feel the same way, right? And to think that they would choose to create a new character that nobody knows or cares about over characters that people do care about, when that's one of the main reasons why they chose to do a Marvel game. Because the thing is, too, another just little thing I want to add in. I was reading one time that they didn't know originally when they were making this game if they were going to be able to have the rights to be able to use Marvel characters. So they had already made a bunch of their own original characters, just like with Overwatch or Team Fortress or anything like that, right? And then once they found out that they would be able to use the Marvel IP, then obviously they took the Marvel IP. And it's always smarter to go with something like Marvel or DC or any of these other comics that have existed. I mean, you could take like Image Comics as well that has like Spawn and all of the people in that universe and stuff. And you're always going to be better off taking something where people already know and love and have rapport with these characters versus creating your own new stuff. Could that work? Yes, but more than likely, you're going to have a higher success rate using stuff that's more popular. And, like I was saying about the channel, I'm aware of what you all find interesting. If I make a video and the video doesn't do well and you guys say, we don't care about this, do you think I'm going to talk about that topic anymore? No. But if I make a video talking about something and it gets more views than anything I've made, and you guys just can't stop going back in the comment section, allowing it to be pushed further and further out into the algorithm, what do you think I'm going to do? On a rating day, I'm going to bring that topic back up. If I get on Twitter and I see that every single person is going back and forth debating about something, I see people having arguments in my Discord server all day long, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to make a video about it. It's just that simple. And it's the same thing with this game. If they see that there's characters that people want through doing something as simple as making a poll, it takes me longer to go get a tissue and blow my nose than it does to post a poll on Discord or Twitter or wherever else and allow you all to tell me what it is that you want. Same thing with them, for them to make these polls and say, what characters you want to see? And then you all go, oh, we want Ghost Rider, we want Thanos, we want Deadpool, we want Daredevil, we want this character, we want that character. It takes 2 seconds, and we do all the work for them in that regard. A new character, though, who's going to be excited for that? Now, there are exceptions, because you think about like Jeff, for example. Jeff was around, but nobody really knew who Jeff was. Jeff was not super popular. The game took him and made him really popular. Luna Snow really didn't have a lot of like comic book appearances, if she had any at all. She came from like other things and stuff like that, and they took Luna Snow and made Luna Snow popular. So every now and again, you can kind of like not necessarily make an original character, but take a character that no one really knows about or has not really had much, like of a foundation in the comic book community, and then popularize them through the game. So it's like they're kind of like working in tangent. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, though, it's just 10 times easier to take a really popular character that already exists. Like you think Daredevil, for example. Daredevil's popping right now. He's had a show that, has been on Netflix for a while. And then Disney took all those and stuff like that. And even Disney was like, hey, you know what? Not only are we going to bring the show back, but we're actually going to start including him in the MCU. I mean, he made an appearance in the Spider-Man movie and stuff. And, now we had like the She-Hulk show, all this stuff, right? So why would you not just bring in characters like that are already really popular? People know about them. You don't have to come up with skin ideas, because it's like we can just make this one from the show, or we can make this one from this comic book or whatever. Like it just saves you so much time and energy, and it's more of a working smart versus working hard kind of scenario. So, like I said, I'm going to wrap it up here, but, I do feel like, this was just a particular thing where people kind of just heard something and they just jumped on, they're going to start making original characters, brother. I highly doubt that. Like, I'd be willing to bet my home on it that it will be a very long time before we get a character that is actually an original character, if we ever get one. More than likely, they're going to have for years and years to come. I think the better thing, I know I said I was going to wrap it up, but now I'm thinking about this. The more interesting thing from the article that I actually took was the fact that, you know, they said that they were trying to come up with countermeasures for the fact that the roster may get too big and may become too overwhelming. Because if you've been playing this game from the beginning, that's one thing. It'll be easy for you to know, like, oh, I know all these characters, right? Or at least have an idea of what they do and kind of like their counters, whatever. But you do have to think about people that come into games later. Because as time goes on, this game could become more popular. Like, that happens with games a lot of times. Sometimes games come out and they're really popular. Then they lose a bunch of the people that didn't really care. They were just doing it because it was new and shiny and all that kind of stuff. And then you have kind of like the main base. And then somebody comes out, maybe it's a new character, or they change the game around in certain ways and new people come back in. And then as time goes on, new people that just maybe weren't even into gaming, that get into gaming, will come in and it gets another breath of life, or whatever the case is. And it could seem kind of overwhelming when you load into the game and there's like 100 characters in there, right? Like, that could seem a bit much. But at the same time, though, like I said, how exactly would they go about that if they were going to start shelving characters, saying like, okay, well, we've had I don't know, Hulk in the game for this long, and he's got like a 3% pick rate or something like that. So, you know, maybe what they could say is like, hey, there might be some people out there that are Hulk mains that really love Hulk, but what we'll do is maybe we'll add another character that's like a better version of Hulk, like Red Hulk, and then people will say, what about my skins that I bought and stuff? What are you gonna do about that? Well, they have costume tokens. They could just literally say, hey, if you got this character, if you got so many skins for this character, you know, let's say you got 3, here's 3 costume tokens or whatever, right? For future skins or whatever the case is, current skins, whatever. So there are ways that I think that they could handle that. But it is kind of irritating because you have games like Fortnite, for example, where I could load into Fortnite right now. I haven't played Fortnite in years, but I could load in right now because I started playing it as soon as it came out. So I have extremely rare skins on my account, like some of the rarest skins that are worth a lot of money and stuff that people just cannot get. Like, for example, Battle Pass skins. They don't ever re-release Battle Pass skins. There's a lot that are like the original ones, but they're not the ones. So I can load in right now and wear one of the rarest skins in the game that, you know, less than 1% of the player base has. And, you know, that's nice. It's a nice feeling to be able to be like, yeah, I got this thing that, like, you know, the fact that I was one of the first people that made, you know, helped the game grow and stuff like that. And that, you know, gave time and money and energy into it when it was in its infancy, you know, I'm kind of like rewarded for that. But then you think about Call of Duty gets to a point where after so many games, they have to kind of reset everything and you can't use any of the previous stuff. So like all the stuff from, you know, Warzone back in like 2019 up until like, what was it, like 2023 or something? I forget exactly when they reset everything, but everything that you got from then on or back then, you can't use or access anymore. The only way that you could access it is if you go back and play, not Warzone, because there's no way to access Warzone from that time period, but you can go back to the individual multiplayer games that came out, like Modern Warfare 1, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops Cold War, and all that kind of stuff. And you could play multiplayer, and eventually even those, I feel like maybe the servers will eventually get shut down if there's not enough people playing them. The point I'm making, though, is that does kind of make people hesitant to want to, like, put their time and energy into something when you've kind of been burned in that aspect before, where it's like, yeah, buy all these cosmetics and different things, but they're not going to be around in 3 years. And that's something about Fortnite that I do, like, kind of respect how they handle that, where they're like, listen, if you bought a skin 10 years ago, you're going to load in 10 years if the game is still alive and active, which it more than likely will be, and you'll still be able to have access to those things. There's not going to be a point where it's like, we got too many skins, and I can only imagine like how many skins there are in Fortnite. Fortnite has to have like easily maybe 3-4K skins, maybe 5. I mean, they release skins like it's nothing every day, all day. So, and like when they come out with skins, they don't just come out with like one skin. Like they'll come out with the whole entire Power Rangers, and then they'll come out with numerous versions of Power Rangers, not Power Rangers. Well, they just did do Power Rangers, but I was thinking of like Ninja Turtles, right? Not only will they come out with Ninja Turtles, they'll come out with like more realistic looking Ninja Turtles. They might come out with like comic book looking versions of Ninja Turtles, like ones from the Nickelodeon show, like whatever. And they'll come out with all of them. And then maybe variations of those and stuff like that. Same thing with the Marvel and DC characters. Not only have they come out with Batman skins, they've come out with like every variation of Batman skin that you could possibly have. They got like, you know, the Dark Knight series. They got Batman, the animated series. They got just whatever, right? Their own just little made up version of Batman, whatever. So like I said, that is something that I am concerned about, that as time goes on, maybe they will have to get to a point where they're like, hey, the roster is just too big. I personally wouldn't do that, but I can see from a business standpoint how you wouldn't want to kind of like shun away, people that are new to the game or are interested in getting into it. And I do know what that's like when you don't want to play a game. That's happened with me a lot with certain games where I haven't been interested in getting into the game because it's like, well, this has been around for so long. There's no way that I could get in now and actually kind of get any footing, because all the people that are there are people that have been there since like day one and know every single thing. And you're talking about 10 years of a game to where people have learned every nook and cranny of it, every tip and trick that you could possibly do, and not doing stuff. So that's my thoughts on it. But I am curious to know what you all think about it. Like, would you be interested to ever see original characters or kind of like semi-original characters in Marvel Rivals, or do you want them to just stick to the bread and butter, which are the people that are most popular that have made Marvel, the powerhouse in comic books and stuff like that it is today? I am really genuinely curious. But like I said, I am going to wrap this video up, though. That was my little tangent on that whole thing. But like I said, do let me know in the comments what you think about it. But that's all I got for this video. I'm Father Dark, and I'll catch you on the next one. Hope you have a great one.